Hi, everyone. I'm kicking off a brand new podcast series, and this series will focus on lightweight rowing. We are going to begin with one of the most decorated lightweight oarsmen in the history of the sport. Eskild Ebbessen won 3 Olympic gold medals, 2 bronze Olympic medals, was a 6-time world champion, and 19-time World Cup gold medalist. In 2013, he was awarded the Thomas Keller Medal by World Rowing and named to the Danish Sports Hall of Fame in January 2017. This interview will take you through Eskild's career and how he continued to find speed throughout the years. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Leo Training Podcast, a podcast focused on scientific and real-world expertise on training strategies between your ears, behind the oar handle, on the field and court, and in the strength and conditioning room. I'm your host, Joe DeLeo. I am a strength and conditioning coach, speaker, and lifelong student focused on continuous improvement. Thank you for joining me, and let's roll to today's episode. I am honored and thrilled to welcome onto the Leo Training Podcast 3-time Olympic gold medalist and Thomas Keller Award winner, Eskild Ebbessen. Eskild, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this.
Me too. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be a great discussion, and I know the audience in the rowing community will definitely benefit from the following conversation and all of your years of experience and wisdom here. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of gold nuggets to share.
I hope so, yeah.
So to get right into it, you have a very long and historied career in the sport of rowing, and you began really around like 1990, and so as I was doing some of the research and watching some of your races and some of the interviews you had, I caught an interview that you actually said that you started rowing at a club for about 2 years before you competed, and it really started as a social endeavor.
Exactly, yeah.
So could you kind of speak about that a little bit and how you kind of got your roots in the sport?
Yeah, when I was young, I was doing different kind of sports, like a little bit of gymnastics, a little bit of football, a little bit of badminton, a little bit of different sports. But I started pretty late, as 15 years of age. Started in a club where the motivation was not the competition, because we didn't have competitions in the training. I said, hey, rowing, that's good training, and but it was really a lot of social activities, and it was very funny, and that was actually the things that made me stay in rowing. And it was after 2 years I was asked to whether it could be fun to row for competition, and I said, yeah, I wanna try that.
Excellent. Very cool. So it sounds like it was just sort of a very natural progression. It wasn't something you kind of had, thought out like, oh, you wanted to get to the highest level possible. It was just, you really enjoyed doing it and you just wanted to sort of keep progressing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to become a world champion or Olympic champion. No, it was more like getting to the next step, the curiosity about improving and getting better, taking the next level. That was really the big ambition and the motivation in the training, and it was the nearest goals that was the greatest motivation. Like, we have the Danish championships for juniors. Well, let's go ahead. Let's give it everything we can for this and see how far we can go. And it was really a lot about taking the next step.
Very cool. Very cool. So as you were going through and kind of progressing to the different levels, so sort of the national championships within Denmark, and then starting to do some, international races or national races, and then international races at the World Juniors level. Did it come easy to you in terms of like finding success early, or was it kind of a struggle like early on as you were the first few years of the sport?
Well, I think it was the progression kept going. I mean, I kept getting better. So that was a success, even though we were not international, or I was not internationally a success. I mean, at the World Junior Championships, we were 12th in the quad. And well, that was okay for Danish standards. So,
Yeah.
But it was still it was good experience, a good training, and the social part was very good. So it was good experiences, and that was really the motivator and the drive for keep going. And of course the ambitions and the goal was taking more and more over the older I became, and the better the results became also.
That's very cool. So you were very sort of intrinsically motivated. You wanted to see how far you could progress personally, and how much you could push your body in terms of the training, and it sounds like a lot of the motivation came from you as you started to see more and more success and continue to get better. You just wanted to go further and further.
Yeah, exactly. And in 92, I came to the Danish national team. And at that time, I was 20 years of age, and went on the not the first team, that was the lightweight 8, but actually the lightweight 4 was the second priority team. And that was like, hey, okay, I'm rowing the 4, and that's good. Let's see how far we can take it in the 4. It wasn't like a big disappointment or anything. It was more like, hey, this is great. I'm on the national team, and we're going to the big world championships, and we have some time to train and improve, and we'll probably do better.
That's very cool. And it's interesting to hear you kind of talk about it, because I guess in 2019, like the world very much knows, and Danish rowing is very well known for the lightweight aspect, right? They've had a ton of success, and you've been a huge part of that. But it sounds like when you were kind of getting started early on, at least the lightweight aspect wasn't as big as it is now. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Actually, the 8 did become world champions in the lightweight 8, and the competition was harder in the lightweight 8 because we didn't have a lightweight on the Olympic program in 92. So we had some good lightweights. We definitely had, and that was the place we got medals. But as the success we had from the lightweight 4 and the lightweight double, and also in the non-Olympic disciplines, that was of course a lot bigger in the 90s and all the way up to London and well, also Rio in 2016 with the 4 winning the silver. So yeah, it's just been bigger since then.
Very cool. So let's take us through kind of that quadrennium of between 92 and the lead up to Atlanta, in 1996, and sort of the training and how things continue to progress, for you during that time period.
Yeah. it became really more and more serious, and the concept 2 was actually starting to be on the market at that time. And in Denmark we have ice on the water in the winter, so it became a lot of the training and competition in the concept 2, and I started really doing a lot of training, and we had good tradition about intensity in the training. And after a few years, I was actually the fastest in Denmark in 90. 94. I was the fastest in rowing ergometer, and I was natural choice for the 4. I think it was more like, hey, he's young and he's strong, and maybe we can teach him how to row. So. I was selected for the 4 in 94, and we had a good combination of the technical part and the physical part. And I was studying physiology at the university. I was very curious into challenging the normal training. How can we do better? What can we do different? What should we focus on to take it to the next level? Always looking for the next level. And at that time, I had a lot of focus on the physical part, but the other guys, they were very focused also on other parameters, like, of course, the technical parts, the cooperation, and actually the oldest guys, Nils and Victor, they were also very focused about creating the environment around the 4 on the way to the Olympics. They want sponsors, so we could go to more training camps and take more time off from work, and get the best material, and taking some initiatives themselves to create these things. And it actually ended up with Nils, the oldest guy on the 4. He actually managed to find a very, very good sponsor for us, so we could do more of the preparation things. And I think that's the mindset of the success we have had. That is, we don't just expect people to serve the road for us. We have to look for things ourselves. We have to do some work ourselves to create our own future.
I love that. That's great. And I think that just is in complete alignment with the sport of rowing, because it's so much of it is about putting in the work and being very methodical and focused in what you're doing in the moment on the day to day. And over time, it adds up. It's like compound interest. It just adds up. And, in regards to the sponsorship, I'm sure that was quite a big deal in around 94, 95 in the lead up to Atlanta, because, it probably, my guess is at that point in time, that wasn't as common for rowing athletes to receive sponsorships in comparison to other more mainstream sports. So I'm sure that helped quite a bit with being able to focus even more on training.
Yeah, I can see that today. However, at that time, I didn't. I was the youngest guy. I was 20 years of age. I lived very cheap and didn't spend much money. So it was quite a funny thing, because I had this thought that, hey, yeah, you go find a sponsor. That'll be great. However, at a point, they were using some times for looking for a sponsor. They had to make some materials. They had to take some meetings. We had to cancel some training, and I reacted like, hey, hey, you guys, let's make it clear. It could be nice having some more money for our daily activities, but I must tell you, I don't get faster by having more money. I get faster by putting in the training and the work that needs to be done to be a champion. Right. That was my thoughts. However, they said like, hey, Eskild, you misunderstood it. It's not about having a easier day or just having more money for fun. It's really about optimizing our training and taking time off from work, training camps, optimizing equipment, and so on. And I said, hey, well, that was really inspiring for me, because that lead to the thought that you can find speed in much wider perspective than just pulling hard in the oar.
That's very interesting. So you obviously the training, is a big focus for you in terms of the preparation piece, but you started to see some of the benefits of being able to have that sponsorship to, as you said, kind of broaden your perspective.
Yeah, exactly, and taking the responsibility of our own time, and it has been, of course, a lot of my focus during all the years that has been. If you wanna row at that level, you should be able to take the time for it and free the time also to recovery and both physically recover but also mentally recover, and that means saying a lot of no's to a lot of other things. And I think every people in elite sport knows this. But however, we see also people who puts in a lot of activities. And also rowing, and I think it's really about saying no to a lot of other things if you really want to succeed with it. We call it choose your battles, and that's not only about choosing. It's also finding out what not to do.
Yeah, that's a great point, because as you just said, you have to say no. You have to kind of, in some ways, in the pursuit of that higher goal for training and winning an Olympic gold medal, you have to say no and be selfish in some other areas of your life so you can get the quality work in.
Yeah, exactly. And that the last two Olympics, I had family and children, and of course we had really to have some good talks about how can we make this work, because I was very aware of that that there should be time enough, not only for training but also recovery. So I made a deal that it was okay to take a nap on the couch in the weekends. I mean that's preparation also. That's getting that talk. Sure. Look in every small details, and we know in the end it's about of course being really good at rowing, technically, physically, but I think at the Olympics you see 13 teams. That's all of them within. On their very best, within 5, 6, 7 seconds between the best and the worst. So it's really about finding those few extra seconds.
Yeah, and it makes all the difference. That's a great point.
Yeah.
So take us up to the lead up to the 96 games where you won your first Olympic gold medal. To kind of close out the training for that quadrennium between 92 and 96 for us.
Yeah, I mean, in '94 was our first year, and we were very high on the success and the speed of the boat. On good days we were almost following the lightweight 8, and in Denmark we were beating the heavyweight quads in training. I mean, it was a great success. I mean, I don't think any other countries you see a lightweight 4 beating the national heavyweight quad, but we did that a lot of those years.
Wow.
Yeah. So. So that was a huge success, and we had a very high focus on intensity and beating our own records, timing, doing a lot of high rate work, intervals, pieces, a lot of times every week. It was, of course, very, very tough and very hard, but we believed that it was the right thing. So we beat a world record the first time in Duisburg. That was 5:52 at that time, and we won the world championships in Indianapolis. We had 2 lengths ahead of the whole field after 750.
Wow.
We were so fast in the first 1,000. However, we only had a length at the end, but that was pretty good. However, in '95, there wasn't like a mental instability, because I and my analysis says that it was something about, hey, we're a success. We are really good, and I think there was a tendency of thinking, hey, we are good, rather than where can we find new speed. And I think it's a very big difference in mentality and the mindset you go into your everyday work. If you go into your everyday work to see where can we improve, what can we do better, what went good, what should we adjust for the next time, you will find the speed. If you believe you are good already, you will not find new speed, and probably go the other way. So that was a little bit on off with both mindsets, but I think we got a silver medal in Tampere. But I think we got back to the '96. We got back to really, really working hard. We took time off from work, study. That was the first year, as I would say, 100% professional, only doing rowing, and that definitely gave us some speed. And even though we saw that a lot of other teams put in a lot of effort to be fast at the Olympics, and then suddenly we saw a very, very fast team from the US, and also Canada was had so much energy into that Olympics in '96, and we also saw that the Canadians, they were in front from about 700 meters until I would say 100 meters before the finish line. So that was a great race. It was a very tough race, that was just incredible, winning this Olympic medal and Olympic gold medal. But I remember also thinking, well, that had been so tough. The training, the race, the pressure, the everything, and the success was so great. The first gold medal for Denmark in rowing for 30 years. It was a huge success. I had kind of thought that, hey, this has been so hard, that the willpower and the concentration and the energy, I thought a man could only do this one time in his entire life. That's
Wow.
that's funny how you can convince yourself of those things. But after a couple of months getting home, you got into your everyday life, and the thoughts came back, questioning, well, is it only one time you can do this? So the curiosity about, is it possible to do it one more time, is of course started to take over.
That's outstanding. Could you just? I'm very curious. You mentioned just sort of that mindset of after winning that medal and the amount of just sort of constant focus in that lead up to 96 and how much that takes physically, mentally, emotionally. And you said being able to do that only once in a lifetime. And I think so much of when we think of sport and training, we really emphasize and think about the physical part, but a lot of what you were kind of touching on there was the mental and emotional aspect and how it's very fatiguing kind of on all sides of things. And so I was wondering, could you just kind of talk about that a little bit more, about how much goes into it and how it can really it takes so much more recovery and in that regard?
It's we really had the mindset that we had to train harder to be better, and that was the really competition. That was about being able to push yourself hard enough. And in Denmark we had we thought about that training hard is not about how much you train, but it's really about how hard you push yourself during training is a lot more important. So and also I would say that the way we trained at that time and also the years after may not have been optimal compared to the knowledge we have today. I would say we trained, we could maybe get the same results or even better by training a little less high intensity and doing some more low intensity. I'm doing today where I'm training triathlon, and I really think it's it's a lot easier to cope with mentally. But going out at that time, just pushing hard from the first stroke, and also doing intervals, and it was always about pushing your limits. Biting the pain of lactic acid in the muscles, and that's hard physically, but mentally with this lactic acid was definitely not an easy thing. So if you were just like, hey, we're going out training, how are you doing? Everything's fine. Oh, let's go out and have some fun. you couldn't bite the pain. You would stop before you reached your physical limits. I think we talked a lot about that. You should. Well, there is a lot about the mentally part of it. It wasn't really a big thing because we just said that you have to be mentally strong enough. You have to have enough motivation and willpower that you can beat your physics. Like you don't stop when you're tired mentally. You stop when your physics can't do anymore. And I think a lot of people, they don't meet the physical limits. They reach their own mental limits. But at some point, if you're strong enough mentally, the physics will stop you. you simply can't deliver not in and cope with more lactic acid. So you have to stop or decreasing the intensity, and that was the mentally part, and that's easy if you're fresh for a race, but it's tough doing it 4, 5, 6 times, 7 times a week sometime.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that point that you made there about meeting your mental limit versus your physical limit. That is a gold nugget right there. So what a pearl of wisdom. So you come back from Atlanta, you take a few months off of rest and kind of as you said, you start getting that curiosity back.
Yeah.
And then you obviously you go back into training and you and your teammates go on this unbelievable run between 97 and 99 of world champions. And so kind of let's shift gears into that next quadrennium between 97 and the lead up to 2000, the Sydney Olympics.
Yeah, we had a period. We had a change in the boat. We had Thomas Ebert on the boat, and after adjusting to Thomas Ebert, it was like I think we made a mistake in the beginning. We just said, "Hey, Ebert, you're getting on a team of Olympic champions. You just take the bow seat and you do exactly as Niels did, and we'll do fine." But the problem was that. We were not successful until we realized that Thomas Ebert was a different person. He rode a little bit different. It was not until we adjusted to him also. He should adjust to us. A really fast boat, really fast boat. We won every races from 97 until 99, and in 99 we beat the world record at that time, 5:45, and it was not beaten. I think it was it was the oldest world records of rowing until it was beaten in 2014. So we definitely had a strong team at that point. So what happened in 2000 was that Thomas Poulsen was injured. He had a knee injury. He could row a little bit, and then he couldn't row, and he could row a little bit, and then he couldn't row. So that was kind of frustrating. And at some point, he just had to said no, this is not going to happen, and we had to find a substitute for Thomas.
Oh, okay. So that obviously, you have another athlete coming into the boat, so you're trying to rebuild that rhythm, get the same rhythm that you had when the other athlete was in there, and that those things take time. So obviously that had an effect on the boat and the outcome in Sydney for you all.
Yeah, it had, and sometimes you can change a guy and it will be faster from day one. We'll try that, and this wasn't just the time. We tried 5 different people, and we took the best guy. And still, and I remember at the preliminary heat at the Olympics in Sydney, we were last, and it was we had won everything for not just 3 years but also 4 years, because we won everything in '96 also. So that was not fun. And we got some corrections and really got into some adjustments, and we just made it for the final, and we had the best race at the final, and we won the bronze medal. And it was like we didn't really realistic was able to. We did hope for it, but we didn't see it as really realistic. So it was like great victory to stand there and getting that Olympic bronze in 2000. No doubt about that.
Wow. In that situation with Thomas Poulsen coming out because of the knee injury and you said Ebert, right? I believe came into the boat. Is that one of the situations where you really kind of have to draw on all the tough training you did when you get into the Olympic regatta and you had that kind of initial result out of the heat where, you know that you and your teammates have done all of that hard work and preparation and, you just, as you said, you make adjustments and you stay steady, throughout the regatta.
Yeah, we really believed in that the speed was there. We just had to look for those small adjustments and keep believing that we have a chance and it's possible. That was very important, I think, to keeping the energy and to have the ability to have a great race at the end of the Olympic regatta.
Absolutely. So you wrap up Sydney, have a fantastic race. You and your teammates earn a bronze, and then do you take another couple months off after that Olympic Games? And then did the curiosity come back a second time, and you wanted to continue to go? For Athens, or what was your mindset?
Yeah, I think the mindset was that I didn't have any plans on stopping at that time, or I think we wanted to continue, and I think we thought we would just continue, and we have a good chance of. We have a great team. We have rode fast for a lot of years. And Thomas Poulsen was coming back, and actually he was back. We had a change. Victor was one of the oldest guys. The oldest guy at Sydney stopped, and we had Thomas Poulsen back. And at that time we had a really strong team, and we beat over in at the first World Cup. We beat the French Olympic champions. We beat them by 2 lengths at the first World Cup with Thomas Poulsen, and that was just that was great. But Thomas was injured again with his knee. It wasn't going well, so he had to stop, and we had to find a completely new guy, and ended up winning a silver in Lausanne that year. But the 2 last years until Athens, we had a new guy also on the team, and he was Stefan. He was so explosive. He was so fast on the first 500,000 meters that we were just taking off at the beginning and until the first 500,000 meters. I remember the race in Sevilla in 2003. 2002 in Sevilla. We had 2 lengths at 1,000 meters mark. The time was 2:52 in a lightweight 4. That's pretty fast. Wow. And then he just died. He didn't die, but there was definitely not the same power at the last 700 meters. But we held it, and even though the other teams were gaining, we still had a length at the end of the race, and that was also a great time. We had a lot of challenges technically and also a little bit socially on that team, but however, we won a length in 2002. We won with a length in Milano in 2003, and we also won the Olympic regatta in Athens with a length. So that was really great times.
Excellent. So a couple kind of additional things I wanted to pull out of there. There were some things that you mentioned that kind of sparked my interest. One was, so I, as much as I could, I went back and watched a lot of your races, the ones at least that are on YouTube or World Rowing. So some of the Olympic finals are there and some aren't. I found the 99 race from St. Catherine's in there.
Yeah.
And so it looks like, and if I'm wrong, just correct me, earlier in your career, you were in the middle of the boat around 3-seat, and then...
Yeah, 3-seat, yeah.
Yeah, and then in 2004, you stroked the boat, correct?
Yeah, I did that from 2001.
Okay. So one of the questions I had for you was that sort of just a natural kind of, again, evolution, natural progression as you became a little bit more experienced, a little bit more, seasoned with racing under your belt? They moved you from the 3-seat to the stroke seat, or is it something you kind of wanted to do, like you enjoyed sitting in that seat?
Yeah, I think it was the first thing. The coach Ben Jensen, he said, you take that seat. We stroke it in the starboard, and you take the stroke seat and learn to steer the boat. And let's go ahead. And it was just faster, so that was good. So that was
And so the other question I had to do with Thomas Poulsen. So two of the big injuries that come out in rowing, and we see time and time again, are usually low back or rib. And knee you don't see as much. So I was just curious, what do you recall what the issue was with his knee? Was it a ligament or a tendon or what was happening? What was causing him?
It was the kneecap. It was kind of jumping. They couldn't find out what it was, but it was jumping, and it was like they couldn't find out what it was. And that's we couldn't find out what it was in Denmark at that time, but how things develop, it would probably be possible if it had happened today, but at that time they couldn't help it, and it was still bothering him. So every time he was stretching his knee, it kind of made a little jump. So
So the kneecap wasn't maintaining alignment and tracking properly as he moved throughout the rowing stroke. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I work in a physiotherapy clinic and sports performance center, so I'm kind of in between both of those worlds. So it kind of naturally, when you said that, it kind of naturally piqued my own curiosity. Okay, so post Athens, well, do you want to talk about the regatta and the race at Athens a little bit before we kind of shift?
I mean, I could do that because of course we with Stefan, we were a team with that could go out very, very hard, and we could definitely be in front after 1,000 meters if we wanted that. But the question was it able to keep the speed at the end? But what actually happened at the Olympics in Athens and at the final race was that after 1,000 meters we were in front. However, the other teams, especially the Australians and also the Italian boat, they were really gaining on us and gotten closer and closer. And actually at the 1,500 meter mark, they were neck and neck with us, and that would normally mean that they would pass us on the last 500. But in that race, what actually happened was that we had powers to take off and increase the speed and beating them, especially on the last 250, and that was just made the race so much more fantastic that we had developed positively in that direction.
That's awesome. Fantastic. So how did your Olympic gold in Athens compare to the first one that you won in Atlanta, just in terms of the mindset and the experiences? Obviously you're a little bit older. You've been competing and racing, for several more years at that point. Obviously they're both incredible and very special, but what was your thoughts on that when you won that second one?
I think it was very important that we learned very early that we have to really see nothing as settled before we actually did it. Believing you can do it, believing you can win, believing you're the fastest is really nothing compared to actually doing it. And it's really the focus about optimizing your race, your mindset, your choosing the battles. It's really looking for the speed. That was filling our heads, and we learned that was the right thing to do, and then we could just hope that the speed was good enough for actually winning. And we were so happy after this 2004 because we knew that believing you can win don't have a value until you have actually done it. So it was just a great relief, and I think it was just as big a gratefulness and experience as the first time.
Fantastic. So after Athens, you retired. So the next race I had from World Rowing was you came back and started competing again in 2007. So you took a break for 3 years there.
Yeah. I had a family. I had a house. I had children, and had a lot of work. I had a company also. I had a company during health projects in other companies, doing a lot of speeches and so on. So yeah, it was time to stop for me. And but also the thing about that, sometimes you do as you normally do. I mean, I was 32. I was the oldest, and the history of the boat has been to stop when you're the oldest. And that's probably what I'm gonna do. But I was questioning this. Do I have to stop? And I was asked whether I wanted to go back in 2006, at the end of 2006, for the 2007 season, and I did.
Wow. So it sounds like you still you had some of that curiosity. You still kind of wanted to keep going, but you also, after Athens, you needed a little bit of a break personally, but also, as you said, a family, wife, your business. So you like to stay busy outside of rowing as well.
Exactly. But also, as I told you earlier, when I was rowing, I didn't take much in my life. So so that was kind of, I have a couple of years to read some other things. No, that wasn't the thought, because I didn't know I was going to start again. But in 2006 I started again, and I couldn't just have continued. that wouldn't have worked. I don't think so. I think it was very important to do the other things in my life, because rowing, you don't row for 10 years or 15 years and you can live the rest of your life. You you really have to earn some money after you're finished, and I have to prepare the rest of my life, and I think that was really what it was all about. And it went well, and I could say, all right, I'm ready to take a couple of more years with rowing.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, rowing is such a wonderful and has so much history as a sport, but in comparison to soccer, football, American football, basketball, it's not a major revenue generating sport.
No, exactly.
It's very difficult for, any high level rower from any country to make a living, while they're trying to train full time and also support a family. So out of that, so I kind of have two additional questions for you. So you came back, and started training again in 2007. So one of the things I noticed is when I watched the Beijing race was that when you were stroking that boat, you were on port side, and so you were primarily on starboard for the at least through the first few Olympics. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
So was that something you wanted to switch sides because you were looking for an additional challenge, or was there an injury that forced you to switch sides, or you were trying to make it work with other athletes in the boat? What brought about that change?
That's pretty simple. We were the team around the boat was we had three very strong guys in the concept too. I mean, we had Thomas Ebert and we had Mads Andersen, and they were both 6'10" in the erg, which was good at that time, and I was 6'03", and then there was we were the three strongest, and I said, hey, if we want to make a fast four, we can't have we can only have two people in each side, and we were all starboard rowers, and I said, hey, if we want to make a fast four, one of us has to change, and so in my mindset I said, well, why not the fastest in the concept too, and I took the challenge and changed the side, and that wasn't easy. I think my teammates can confirm that too. Well, it was like starting in the bassin. What do you call it in English? The
novice, like you're a beginner again.
Yeah. Sitting in the rowing club in the stationary with the oars in the rowing club. Inside the rowing club, you have that in the US, right?
Oh, the tanks, the indoor row, like inside.
Yeah, the tanks, exactly. Yeah, the tanks. Yeah, I started in the tanks to develop the skills in the other side, and rowing the pair for only 8 kilometers in the beginning, and increasing from that. I believe it took almost half a year to being able to row at the same level in the port size. Yeah.
Wow. So first off, I think that's awesome. That's so incredible that you kind of looked at the composition of the team and the quality of the athletes, and you're like, if we can make this the best four possible, one of us is going to have to switch sides, right? And and you were looking at this purely from a standpoint of like, we can be even better. We can be a dominant boat here if we do this, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's very cool. So when you switch sides, obviously you said it took about 6 months, but that you really kind of, from a motor control perspective, you had a decade plus on starboard. So you had to kind of relearn and repattern everything going on to the port side. So as you were making that transition, did you have to kind of work through or do any extra work outside of the boat in terms of trying to make sure your body stayed balanced from like a muscular development standpoint? Because you'd spent so much time, so many years on starboard. Was going to port were some of areas of your body a little bit weaker in comparison?
Yeah. In the beginning, I pushed so hard with my legs hanging in my right arm. I was having the most weight on my left arm. Now it was the right arm, so I actually had a shoulder injury. Like the arm was kicked out of the shoulder. So I had I actually had quite some times with the muscles and the tendons. They were not used to the pressure from the leg. So
wow.
That was one of the conditions I had to take care of. And I think we're very gifted in Denmark for this, because we had a lot of time in the Ebessen during the winter. So I was training along with the other in the concept 2, and I could do the tank and doing some short trips in with one of the other guys in the pair. I really wanted to take it on nice and easily, increasing, because I wanted to get used to it, because also the lower back, as you told, is quite a big risk of injury. So building up that over a long time, I think, was very important, and I think that was a good thing. Instead of, hey, you're going to the other side, and then we go out and row for 2 times a day. That is probably possible, but you have to take off the intensity. You have to don't row optimal, because you have to develop your muscles in a wrong way. So I think it was building up slowly was very important in that case.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like the other part of this too is obviously, I mean, you were doing training, on the ergometer, as you said, and I'm sure you did some cross training as well. But that initial transition, that first 6 months, at that point, you really focused a ton on the skill aspect and like really learning and kind of allowing your brain to flip that switch of going, all those strokes, all those years going to starboard. Now you're going to port. And so you really worked hard on controlling the intensity, keeping it a little bit lower, so that you developed all that fine motor skill that you need when you're up at 38, 40 strokes a minute.
Exactly. It was quite easy, and it was quite easy in the lower rate, but getting into the higher rate, being fast enough in the water and precise in the water, and having the motor skills precise enough, it took some time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's incredible. So came back in 2007, lead up to Beijing. You're sitting in stroke seat on the port side now. So take us through the Beijing Olympic regatta.
Yeah, we had a change just 1.5 months before the race, and that was one of the very successful changes. And I remember from the training camp that we got this new guy, Morten, on the team, and he was very good at the start stroke. The first 5 strokes, he was pretty good, and we, from the port side, we were pulling over the other side in the starts, and I knew that especially Mads Andersen, he was very, very strong, and I said to him, it can't be true. I know you have more powers to keep the boat straight at the start, and and after saying that, 3-4 times in a row, he got really annoyed and he pushed everything he could. And I told him, "Hey, this is great. This is how it should be done." and we got the strategy from a really fast start, and we succeeded with that in the Beijing start, and we just took off from the beginning, and but also getting a really fast start, but also getting fast down to our middle pace. So we had half a length in the beginning, and the Canadians came up on almost on the side of us, but we really had the strategy of keeping our eyes in the boat, keeping the focus on our own rhythm, the balance, the preciseness of the stroke, and waiting for the 1,000 meters to come, where we really should put in a little bit extra effort. And I just remember us really at the 1,000 meter just pulling a little bit extra. But when I looked up at 1,400 meters, we had 2 lengths. We were in front of the whole race, looking down at them. And I was like, "What is happening?" But then, just back to focus, keep moving. Everything can happen. And it suddenly did. And at the Polish and also the Canadian boat, they came a little bit closer at the last 500, but it was we didn't want to take too much chances at the end of the race, so it was more like keeping it safe, still having almost the length at the end of the race. So I mean, that was an incredible team we had at that time. We only had it for 1.5 months, but it's, of course, it's about winning, but it's also the feeling that this is so fast, and everything works. It's not just we're a fast first 1,000 team, or we're a fast sprinter, or we're a fast first 15 strokes. It was like we're a fast everything. We're not only fast in low level. We're fast in 30. We're fast in 30. 36, we're fast in 38. We're the lowest rate of the Olympic final was 39. The average was, I believe, over 40. So, I mean, that we really had a good team, no doubt about that.
That's incredible. And just listening to you talk about the Beijing Olympic Regatta, like I can hear the excitement in your voice, because listening to you, the rekindling and thinking about that experience and those thoughts, like that boat, when you got into it, like, as you said, it just flew, it just went. And when you have a crew like that, you just want to keep going and enjoy every session, every chance you have in there, because it's an amazing experience. And it sounds like you guys, 6 weeks out, you had that, and you kind of caught fire and rode that momentum all the way through that regatta.
Yeah. That was great.
Excellent. So after Beijing, you retired a second time. And again, you took about 3 years off. So again, at this point, you're probably focusing more on your own career, of course, your family. So one thing would be really, I guess, important to share too, is like, how did you continue to make this work as your kids got older and, you have a wife? I mean, that's a huge challenge, and all of this is going on while you're continuing to train at, the highest level.
Yeah, exactly. The thing was, I had a house that was 100 meters away from the rowing center.
Nice. That helps.
That wasn't a coincidence. uh, but however, that's one of the things that made it possible. And I had 100 meters. If I had to walk, it would be like 150. But hey, if I'm going to row one more time, I have to make a hole in my bushes. So I decrease it down to 100 meters. you know. All that was just a thought about you win an Olympic final with maybe 1 second, and sometimes it's just 1/10 of a second. So I mean, every small thing counts, and you have to walk that road a lot of times, and you have to spend time with your family and take care of your house. So it was really a lot about not only optimizing the speed of the boat, but also optimizing my lifestyle with how can I make my day as easy as possible, so I have as much as possible energy for rowing. And it definitely made it possible that I lived that close to the rowing center, having my family and kids very close. If they wanted me, they could just walk to the lake, and they could shout for me in the ends, because it's a 2-kilometer lake. So within 10-15 minutes, we would be able to reach. So, I mean, that was just one of the things that made it possible with 3 kids.
Yeah, no, and the what you talked about there, like optimizing your day, this part I think can't be overstated enough. You sort of built into your training environment these things that made it very easy and sustainable to do, especially as you got older and had, a wife and children and your own business. And, you made it easy to be able to get to and from practice, and also have, family time too, which is super important. So it also made recovery easier. So I think that's very important aspect for the audience to kind of walk away from is, that was, you were thinking about all of those things, not just taking the strokes and, the watts or the cadence or anything like that. You were also thinking about, how can I make this work from a environment, a culture standpoint?
Yeah, very important. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So take us through your final Olympics. You came back in 2011, and then the lead up to London and through the regatta.
Yeah. I mean, there was 2 guys who stopped from the Beijing for Thomas Ebert and Mads Andersen, and so it was actually a new team at that time. But they did quite well. They won a silver medal in 2009. So it was a good team, and we actually ended up with a very young guy. He was 23 at the Olympics. And we definitely had some good moments, and we won some of the World Cup regattas, but also we didn't have that. We were really good, and on the best days it was really good, but we didn't have that. This is incredible. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thing we have seen before. But it was also always we would like to have a little bit more, and we came into the Olympics believing that we could win this Olympic final, but we also knew that we got 2, 3, 4, or maybe even 5 teams that were the same level. And the final was incredible. I mean, we went out there to went from the start. We were in front from the first stroke, and then had half a length at 500 meters, and also a length after 1,000 meters. The only team who could follow us was the Australian boat. If you've seen the race, they came, especially the British and the South African boat. They just came closer and closer on the last 500 meters, and I think if you see the race, 200 meters from the finish line, you got 4 boats within 2 meters, 1 and 2 meters. The 3 boats that got the medal, they're within half a meter, neck and neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was so close, and we ended up 1.5 meters after the South African team, and 5 centimeters after the British team, getting the bronze. A couple of meters in front of the Australian boat. It was fantastic, of course, getting the medal and being at the Olympics. But that was so close. I've never imagined things. Well, I did imagine things that close, but I think it's one of the closest races we have ever seen in rowing about the medals. I think it is.
Yeah, that was an incredible race. And I think that race, I think, is a great demonstration of like how competitive and how unbelievable lightweight rowing is. Not that the entire sport isn't, but the technical precision that lightweights have in terms of going down the course, consistently across the board at 38 to 40 plus strokes a minute, while being, laser focused with their blade work, and the oarsmanship. It's just, I don't know if we necessarily see that type of level on the heavyweight side. Sometimes we do, no. but I feel like there's so little room or margin for error on the lightweight side that you are trying to squeeze every single drop of speed that you can from everywhere.
Definitely. If you take the lightweight force races during the years, there's no boat type getting as close at the finish line as you see in the lightweight force during the history. I think the second closest is the lightweight double. That's what I believe, and so yeah, it is very tight.
Yes. So we've got. I want to be respectful of your time. We got about 11 minutes to go. So one question I have for you to kind of build off of this before we head into the rapid fire is we haven't really talked about sort of, diet, nutrition, or, the technical aspect of the rowing stroke. And so kind of piggybacking off of what we just said, when you were training throughout your entire career, you were always talking about, trying to get more, or optimizing in every facet. And I think that's one of the unique characteristics, about lightweight rowing, is because everybody's at that same body weight. So what are some of the things, that you did to make sure that you were getting the absolute, most out of your body, and the boat, during your rowing career?
Yeah, that's hard to answer because there isn't one thing. I think if there is one thing, it is that we look for speed in small places, like things that we know is only giving us maybe 1 or 2 parts of a hundredths of a second. But I mean, if you find enough of them, it will definitely bring us some extra speed. So I think it's a lot about the mindset. Is looking for those small things. It's not just in pulling harder, not just in technique, but every asset. I think it has definitely broadened my side to look for seconds other places than the normal places you look, and you do find things.
The details.
The details, maybe not bigger things, but small things. The biggest things are of course the most important, but I think everybody knows the big things, but knowing a lot of small things can give you a little bit extra speed.
Yes.
And that's if you are at the top level, the only thing you need is a little bit extra.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cause you're talking about, 1% to 2% or less than that. And we're talking about inches.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So Eskild, we have 8 minutes left. I wanted to try to touch on two other areas, but if it's okay with you, are you okay with if we move directly to the rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So what's your favorite technical drill to develop skill in the boat?
That is in the 4. It's rowing 2 and only 2 guys row, and the other 2 keep their oars on the down, on the guns down on the boat, so they don't touch the water. So the 2 rowers they row themselves and keep the balance themselves. That is the best technical drill, and we did that a lot because when you sit in a 4, you always think it's one of the other guys doing something wrong, and so it's really finding about why is the boat turning a little bit down at the end of the stroke, or why is the boat doing this and this, and it's just a good way to like kind of reset your technique for neutral, so the boat gets into balance, and creating a consciousness about what am I affecting in the balance and the rhythm of the boat.
Awesome. What strength and conditioning exercise do you feel has the best carryover to rowing?
Rowing ergometer.
There you go. Excellent.
We did some of course some strength training and some pull with the arms and so on. But I think definitely the rowing machine. I mean, it's you don't have to the technical part of it. It's so easy rowing the rowing machine, and it's a little bit easier to get in good shape in the rowing machine compared to rowing, because you don't get into very good shape in the boat if you don't have the technical skills. I think if there's not good rhythm and good balance, it's really hard to push yourself hard enough.
Yes, absolutely. What's your best advice to a fellow lightweight rower to make weight or maintain your weight?
What is the best? Can I have the question again?
Yeah, sorry. Your best advice to make sure that you're making weight to get down to 155 pounds.
Yeah, that's easy. Eat less.
Simple.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work. Training extra. Burning off extra calories, you just get more tired and more hungry. You have to, you really have to eat less, and and my priority is to eat less in the evening, because then you don't have to cope with the hunger in a lot of hours during your bed.
So I see. So you use sleep to make sure you recover.
You don't cope.
Yeah.
So go to bed a little bit hungry, I think, is the most efficient, because if you succeed to fall asleep, you burn off fat while sleeping, and that doesn't hurt as much as skipping the breakfast. That I think we could have a whole podcast about diet and reaching the level weight, but definitely you should. I think our strategy is to never skip a meal, but just eat less at meals, and maybe especially in the evening.
Got it.
That has been my.
Okay, very good. 2 more. What's your 2K and 5K or 6K ergometer PR scores?
2K is 6:03.2, which I rode over in Boston at the World Championships ergometer rowing.
Yeah, the Crash B.
Crash. So that was weighing in also. And on the 6K, it was we don't do 5Ks, we do 6K, and the time was 19:20, okay. Which is
it's just over 136, so like a 136.2 or 3 or something.
Yeah, 136.7. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, final question for you. So if you were in charge of FISA, what would you do to keep lightweight rowing going? And how would you continue to develop and expand the sport of rowing?
Well, there's no doubt that you should work for having it on the Olympic program. If it's under the Olympic program, it will work out itself. It's just it's like setting the big goal. That's it's the Olympics that controls the activities and the life of lightweight rowing and the motivation. So really, if it's on the Olympic program, you will keep lightweight. You will keep rowing as a international sports instead of South American countries and maybe also African countries. So I believe that a good focus for future rowing internationally is to have definitely lightweight rowing, and cutting it off the Olympic program is in my eyes killing the sport. So definitely keep the lightweight on the Olympic program.
Excellent. All right, so I will let you off the hot seat. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and making time for me and sharing all of your experience and knowledge with the rowing community.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to this. It's been great.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to the Leo Training Podcast. If this content is important to you, please be sure to rate and review so more people can listen. Also, you may follow me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook to get weekly free content. For more in-depth content, please subscribe to my email newsletter at my website, leotraining.io. Be sure to check out the resources page to download free, helpful content. If you have any questions or feedback, please contact me directly by email at joe@leotraining.io or via Instagram The handle is @Leo Training. Thank you again for listening and have a great day.